This is TWiT.
So the Wall Street Journal just did a study about data snarfing by apps or something.
They actually did one on TikTok, but that wasn't the story I was really excited about.
They did. That was the story about them snarfing up the ID.
Yeah, that was the
numbers.
Android story. Oh, that has a Google reference. Maybe we should talk about that.
Ooh, Android.
Android is Google,
Look, I'm not saying TikTok is clean as a whistle or the Chinese government is clean as a whistle, but the TikTok is being essentially put out of business, at least in the U.S., without any evidence presented about why. It's just, because it's Chinese.
Which is something we complain about other nations doing all the time.
Right.
But here's the story I was talking about. This is an NSA-focused story. And I thought it was worth noting, even if there's no Google bits.
Well, we don't have to have the Google bits in it. And we are going to get to something very Googly.
She's just trying to give herself license for always giving us crap that we
NSA warns cell phone data location could pose national security threat. That story?
No. This is. I put it in the rundown. This is a company called Anomaly 6, and what it has done is various app makers in the U.S. allow Anomaly 6 contracts with the federal government. Anomaly 6 grabs their data, though, by paying various app makers to embed their SDK on phones.
Yes.
And so I might download an app that has an SDK from Anomaly 6. But if I have done that, and there's no way for me to know if I have or not, then Anomaly 6 is taking the data from my phone and selling that access to the federal government.
Wow.
And that is like, nobody talked about this story. They published it on Friday. I don't understand why they would do that. It is, to me, a huge deal. But maybe I'm wrong.
More than 500 apps. Hundreds of millions of users.
And this is how the app businesses run, right?
Yeah.
If you are giving something to someone for free, you do need to make some money somewhere. And so you're like, yeah, well, buddy, you could. And I talk to companies all the time that embed their SDK in apps. Not all of it's marketing. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'll use your Bluetooth, to create
we had
a
a sponsor for a long time called Braintree that does in-app payments. And what they sold essentially was the ability to embed their SDK in your app so that you could take in-app payments. This is very common. Most apps, I would suspect, are using libraries and tools from third parties. It's interesting that there's a company that specializes in an SDK that provides location data to branches of the U.S. government and private sector clients.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting business. Anomaly 6, founded by defense contracting veterans who worked closely with government agencies for most of their careers. It helps because you can knock on the door and they say, come on in, Joe. They built a company to cater in part to national security agencies. The firm's capabilities described in documents prepared for military officials that were reviewed by the Journal. They also explained their business practices in a briefing to Ron Wyden's office, whose staff then also described it to the Wall Street Journal. Apparently, Senator Wyden from Oregon has been conducting a probe into the sale of our location data. It's interesting. The Journal has suddenly become the white knight for our privacy.
No. The Journal is the progenitor of moral panic for the view of Rupert Murdoch that he wants to fight Google.
Right.
We knew that was coming.
He was doing that on purpose.
But they also talk about Babel Street, which is another company that does exactly the same thing. And I would argue it's not moral panic to draw attention to this and say, hey, is this something that we really want? Because this is clandestine location tracking on your device. And I may recognize that, and I have focused on this for a while, I recognize that Google can give my location data to law enforcement if there's a subpoena. And I also recognize that those subpoenas are getting more and more broad, which we're seeing some court cases come up around that. I also recognize that when those subpoenas come out, Google can't always tell me what police are looking for.
Right.
So I very much focused on that. What I haven't thought much about is this kind of data gathering and use by the federal government. But it's relevant, Jeff. It's not just moral panic when you think about what the FBI is doing around tracking people at protests.
Leo and I were just toying with each other because he was trying to praise the journal, and I was trying to say, remember, it's Murdoch. That's all.
So, okay. I was like, Jeff, I would think this is something that you would be as a journalist.
Is it safe to assume
that was a little...
If you have a smartphone... See, the thing about and one of the reasons I started carrying the iPhone and started maybe preferring the iPhone is because it does at least warn you when something is getting your location data, and you can say no to that, right? Google started doing that a little bit.
Yeah, Google does that now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get those notifications all the time.
So
Google does it constantly.
Are those effective against Babel Street and Anomaly 6? Or, by the way, it's spelled anomaly. When I say anomaly, is that not right? I always say anomaly. I'm going to have to fix...
Those are the same words, aren't they?
Yeah, but I pronounce it...
The word is anomaly.
Is it anomaly or anomaly?
It's anomaly.
Okay.
Where's John McWhorter when we need him?
Mr. McWhorter.
What does an A with an umlaut over it mean in the pronunciation guide?
E.
That's a whole separate letter in Sweden, by the way.
Yes, it should be. It should be a whole separate letter here, too.
Yeah, and you know what? If you go to a town, this is very fun. In true story, if you're in Sweden and you're at one of their transport kiosks, like their train stations, and you're seeking like a ticket to like Almhurst, for example, if you look under A, it's not there. Right. You have to look under A with the little
umlaut
over it.
I'm going to play it right now and see what this says.
Anomaly.
That doesn't sound right at all. Anomaly. Anomaly. Now I'm really confused. Okay, moving along. So, should I, even though I get warnings from my operating system and it feels like I can control location data, should I still be concerned about this Anomaly 6, or does that block them?
I say be concerned, but most of the time people are not going to be concerned enough. The regular folks, people like you're probably just going to uninstall the app and just say, you know what, forget it.
I don't really care. I turn on Google location because I like to know where I've been.
Same here. I like to have a history.
Yeah,
I like to have history.
So then relax.
Reverb Mike says this.
Relax. What does it matter?
Reverb Mike says this is my own private via anomaly. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff. Yes?
No, I just say relax.
Relax.
So you went to the office.
Let him follow me around.
We all know you're at the office.
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's not like I am.
You know, there's a certain ego that is inherent in this. Is that we worry that China is going to care where we were.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
Yeah,
what
I don't
is
want
China going to
where
get?
I am. I think it's a wrong thing and all that. But at some point, it's not worth my brain power to stop China from knowing that I used to go to Taco Bell.
I understand. I mean, if
it's not you, Jeff.
I understand but I'm just saying
it is our military service people,
right? And they're barred from having TikTok on their phone, and I think that's a good thing. In fact, I have no problem if Wells Fargo, which they do, wants to bar employees from having TikTok on their phone. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with it being banned from all use in the country because I don't get the threat. If I were a spy,
we don't get the threat for the regular folks.
Right. For you and me, who
them
cares?
hacking me.
That's what I'm saying.
Hacking me is not going to get them much other than they're going to feel sorry for me, if anything. But outside of that, they're not going to gain anything.
I can understand China wants to know where dissidents are, former Chinese residents are, American spies, American military. I can understand all that. We know that Strava running app was heavily used by military personnel, and they figured out where a secret military base was because there was all these people running around an empty spot in the map in a circle. So they said, don't carry Strava on you. Although that has mixed blessing. For a long time, I'm told was it the Russians or the Chinese thought there was a secret place in the Pentagon because there was a lot of traffic there, in and out of there, and they thought this must be an important spot. Turned out it was a hot dog cart in the courtyard. So it doesn't replace, traditional.
That is important.
Yeah, it is important. Good old traditional spying. It sits wrong with me, but we don't have to go on and on about that. I mean,
the people like me can say, it doesn't really matter if they hack me, but that's not fair to everyone, in my opinion, because we do have a right to privacy to a certain extent, right?
And I'm concerned.
Well, then if you think about access, even so, federal and municipal access to this kind of data, there's nothing that prevents someone who works in any of those places from using that data to maybe stalk someone.
Right.
And that's.
So I agree. We should have the right to protect our privacy. And I'm thrilled that the iPhone and the Android.
No. I don't think it's just a function of a right to protect our privacy. I think we should be having a discussion about the trade-offs associated with free use of apps and the business models that
who should we have this discussion with? And I'm not. We should be having
like the fact that we're having it now. When you say to someone, "Hey, that's a really cool app, hot or not, whatever. Is it a hot dog?" That's fun, but is that giving up your location? What are the trade-offs associated with these things? And part of it is making people aware, because I don't think they are. And I think it's also really hard to say, or it's really easy to say, well, the government doesn't care about my location.
Yeah.
I think it's important to show people why they may not want the government to have access to that information.
So should we ban TikTok? Should we ban TikTok?
No.
I'm not talking about TikTok, Leo. I'm talking.
So discussions like this should have happened 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago when we had that congressional
CEOs
hearing?
Were there, yeah.
Instead of having the grandstanding, is that what you're saying?
They should have happened then, and they are still happening. I mean, some of this information came out because of a Senator Wyden's discussion.
Right.
I think it's just we need to have this ongoing conversation, and we need to keep thinking about it. We need to keep talking about it, and one day something's going to click for people.
Right.
Maybe.